All right, ladies and gentlemen, going to make a quick video here. So, after ranking to rank 7, spending 3 weeks doing that, yeesh, and doing some PvPs and making duels and stuff and making a duel guide video, I wanted to make a video about my findings. So, if you don't know, my gear theory and proposal usually follows a certain like pattern. So the first pattern, of course, is we're going to try to get as much stamina on our paladin as possible, and just see if we survive the bursts, like in the wild. Right? Are we surviving rogue bursts? Are we surviving mage bursts? Are we surviving druid bursts? You get the idea, right? Are we surviving bursts? Then once we've established that we are able to survive bursts, we start customizing the character based upon what we're observing in the field, right? And that's basically like a stage 2 is refinement of the build. Can we sacrifice HP or not? How much HP do we want to sacrifice? What do we want to pick up in its place? And so we're going to basically have this conversation today. So in the build that I dueled with, I'm missing some pieces of gear, and I talk about it in the very beginning of the duel guide video. I basically talk about how I'm missing a neck piece. Let's see, I can probably just play it from the beginning here, really fast. See what happens. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to showcase current paladin gearing, proper paladin gearing, as near as I can get to it at least. So we got the food buff. This are the wild berries. Or the yeah. Okay, we're not doing that. It's gonna take a million years. Yeah. So I'm missing a neck piece. I wanna go forward a little bit here. Yeah. So let's just look at how the refinement has happened, like the changes in gearing actually after actually PvPing and seeing what life is like. So the first change in gearing that has happened is we are 100% using fire resist librams. So that would be leg and head enchantments in conjunction with fire resist aura, in conjunction with blazing emblem. Blazing emblem is such a good trinket that you're even using it in era at level 60 Nax gearing duels. So I figured it would probably transfer over pretty damn effectively into Season of Discovery duels. Uther Strength is also a trinket you often use in era level duels, believe it or not, like Nax gear duels. Uther Strength is still a super good trinket. Other potential trinkets are well, you have your standard screw you trinkets, which would be Goblin Mortar and Gnomish Automatic. Those are always your amazing backup trinkets. What's the other one? It's Mark of the Chosen. What is it? Do I even have my internet on? No, I do not. All right, cool. Let's find Mark of the Chosen here. That's Mark of Resolution. We don't want Mark of Resolution. Narc. Wow, awesome. Where's the M button? Mark of the Chosen. Mark of the Chosen, 2% chance when you're hit, increasing all stats by 25 for 1 minute. It has a 2% proc chance. This trinket is absolutely amazing. The only reason why I'm not taking it over Uther Strength is because there's a few reasons. Do I even want to talk about that right now? That's a good question. That it is a magic buff and therefore it is dispellable, right? Whereas the Uther Strength is also a magic buff and dispellable, but she's a little bit different. Uther Strength, she's difficult to test because she's kind of random in the amount of damage she absorbs. But as near as I can tell, when she procs, she absorbs between 400 and 600 damage. And that sounds like nothing, but you would be surprised how often that thing just shows up. Find the U button. Find the TH button. You'd be surprised how often the Uther Strength proc comes through and it's just worth its weight in gold. Especially against certain classes. So rogues hate Uther Strength on you. Handsman Shamans don't much like it on you. Anything that's going to be trying to tickle you to death. Druids don't like it very much because they're trying to tickle you to death. Uther Strength is there for you. Other things that have changed are I have lowered my HP down from about 4,000 base, which is what the Paladin has in the dueling guide video. The Paladin in the dueling guide video is closer to the original Paladin build proposal than the more refined one that I'm showcasing here, right? Basically, I found out that I didn't need 4,000 HP in order to survive bursts. 3,800 I'm super comfortable with. And this build is very, very close to 3,800 hit points. She definitely gets over 3,800 hit points when you do the plus 100 HP food buff. More importantly, this is in conjunction with the fire resist. Having 107 fire resist on your character is a little nuts and absolutely insane. I'm sure I'll showcase that in a little bit. Actually, I'll showcase that right now since you guys didn't actually see the damn dueling video at all. Fire, and fire, right? Yeah, it's right after this. So we beat the druid. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Still right, I forgot I had a wrath.
And
right,
where is the mute button? Yeah, shut up. Yeah, so right after this, I convinced this mage to hit me with a bunch of fire spells. How do I explain this? There's an interesting core concept that I really want to talk about, but let's watch this really fast here. Yeah. Kill me with fire. Let's do it. Alright, let's do the combat log here really fast. Check to make sure I'm still recording. What's happening to me. Okay, yeah, we can pause. So the absorbs here are my Sacred Shield doing its job. And because I don't have Sheath of Light up, Sacred Shield's only going to be absorbing about 250-ish when she procs. I don't think Sacred Shield is actually consistent. She tells you on the tooltip that she's going to absorb like 175 damage, but then you actually like try to playtest the damn thing, and sometimes it's like 140, and sometimes it's like 170, 190, and you're just like, you can test it butt naked, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? But the absorbs, so there's our first resist, right? Well, there's a full resist. This full resist, I don't know what that is. That's probably some kind of scorch debuff that got full resisted. So the thing about fire resist, and the reason why we love fire resist on our paladins, is that once you stack a certain amount of fire resist, you never see 0% fire resist anymore. You'll also never see 100% fire resist from fire resist spells, unless of course the thing is binary, and the debuff from Scorch of course is binary, meaning it's either something that gets on you or it gets fully resisted, right? But you're gonna watch all these fire spells come in. Oh, I don't have fire. Yeah, I don't have fire resistor on now. Let me mute this really fast here. I don't want to listen to this anymore. So what's going to happen here is every fire spell that's hitting me is resisting, right? It's always resisting. That's a pure absorb. Okay, that's an absorb. Ooh, so that one was a 0% resist. Okay, so that's a 0% resist. That means we're not really fire capped right now, but it is what it is. Scorch, resist, yeah. So hopefully you can see just how amazing the fire resist is, especially in conjunction with, say, Sacred Shield. Yeah. So Sacred Shield, 247, absorb. If I had Sheath of Light active right now, that wouldn't be 247. That'd be closer to like 375 or 275. If I was the better gearing, which we're going to show you, it would be closer to 300. So Sacred Shield in this build is supposed to be absorbing around about 300, and of course the fire resist is consistently reducing incoming fire damage by probably a little over 30%. These stupid frost fire bolts, we tested it in the video, and that was kind of cool. They play by their own rules. They use the lesser of the two resistances between frost resist and fire resist. However, if you trick the spell into using fire resist, it still uses the fire resist as if it was frost resist, which is really bad. I can probably jump ahead here. Come on, give me that. No. Jump ahead. Jump ahead means jump ahead. Fuck you. Nah, definitely not happening there. But I want to show this really fast. So the reason why we love fire resist is if the mage is standing still and casting spells at you, your resistance probably don't matter. They're probably using Frost Fire Bolt, right? Which is going to kind of sort of cut through your resistances. And so all you have going is Sacred Shield right there. But watch what happens when the mage gets mobile here, right? When the mage gets mobile, watch how much fire damage starts hitting me, right? Let's see, you got hit. Okay, that was Seal of Martyrdom. This is the other really annoying thing about Seal of Martyrdom is all these absorbs are not giving me mana, which is kind of annoying. I'm waiting for the... Oh, he's learned not to hit me with fire spells. That's funny. Resist. That's a fire spell. Frost... Oh, he got me there. Nice. But usually when they get mobile, they're doing an absolute ton of fire damage. But I think he learned eventually. Don't run up to the mage and ask him to try to kill you with fire resist spells. Lol. What else is there to say here? Okay. So yeah, well, let's stop this really fast and go talk about the gearing changes specifically. All right, so there's a core concept with your Paladin build that I basically discovered back in TBC theory crafting, and it still 100% holds true in Season of Discovery, unfortunately. And that is that there is a extremely strong correlation between the maximum amount of HP that you can support on your Paladin and basically how much plus healing you have, right? So what I'm effectively trying to tell you is that if you had your choice between 4,000 hit points on your Paladin or 3,000, say 800 hit points, but an increase in plus healing, it's almost always better for you to take the increase in plus healing. And any mechanic that also follows along those lines also ends up being the case. So if you have to choose between hit points and fire resistance is going to do better for you because it effectively increases your plus healing, right? In a roundabout way, it gives you more HP and it makes any healing you have on you more effective, right? So that's why you're going at fire resist. That's also why we're taking Uther's Strength Trinket over, say, Mark of the Chosen, even though there are some matchups where I've already determined I probably want Mark of the Chosen, like Paladin versus Paladin and a few other ones. Basically, any matchup where I don't care about Blazing Emblem anymore, Uther's Strength is probably better. Even versus the Druid, it's probably better. Although, I don't know, maybe I'd want something else versus the Druid. If I had access to like Major Recombobulator, I'd probably take it instead. But the reason for this correlation is very simple, and you can see it in like the old TBC dueling videos. And the reason for this is you're having to periodically stop and heal yourself when you're dueling as a Paladin, right? And those heals take the form of either 2 holy lights, and then you have to start running at the enemy. Otherwise, they'll get too much time, or they'll get too much distance, or they can drop combat, or stuff like that. If you do 2 holy lights worth of healing, that's 5 seconds, and the enemy can run farther than 40 yards away in 5 seconds, which is not ideal if your goal is to keep them in combat. But usually the problem is that the Druid is running off into Narnia to go drink. The Mage is running off into Narnia to go drink. The Warlock is running off into Narnia to go drink, right? And you just can't dick around for the third flash of or for the third holy light. In Season of Discovery, the healing might take the effect of 2 flashes of light and then we keep running, or 1 flash of light and we keep running, or 1 holy light and then 2 flashes of light and then we start running at the enemy. And what ends up happening is at 3,800 HP, if you need to stop and double holy light yourself and then continue chasing after somebody, your 2 holy lights will probably heal you to full. But if you had like 4,000 plus hit points, it won't heal you to full. And subsequently, you start asking yourself, well, what the hell is the point of that extra HP buffer if under combat conditions I can't refill it to maximum? And the answer is it's not super useful. It's only really giving you burst protection, specifically against like sheep, right? Because sheep will heal you to full. So things like kings aren't super useful if you're able to reach your HP cap. And you can see that in the duels. You can see that I'm not using kings at all. I'm using Blessing of Light because I have more than enough HP at roughly 3,800 hit points. I think I lose this match as I run at this druid. But you have more than enough hit points. There's still a little bit of audio here. Yeah. You have more than enough hit points at... I really should be healing myself. I didn't learn my lesson. Oh, am I gonna... I think I win this one. Yeah, this is the one I win. Okay, thank God. I was like, one of them I ran at him and he just crit the crap out of me and I died. Druid fights. But it's a man of war. It is what it is. But you can see we're doing some weird stuff. Whenever I get rooted, I'm not freedoming myself. I'm cleansing. And that is because I want to keep Blessing of Light on me as much as possible. We're not going kings because you run into the healing problem once again, right? I can't keep that a much HP topped off. Whereas Blessing of Light, even at level 60, Blessing of Light is worth something like 300 spell power. It's actually ridiculous. 300 plus healing, more accurately. But at current level, she's only worth like 200 plus healing. Basically, I think she increases the amount of healing of my Flashes of Light by 85, and she increases my Holy Light healing, which I almost never use in PvP combat, by, I think it's like 200 or something currently. Though those numbers are definitive, which means it'll increase my rank 1 Flash of Light by 85. It'll increase whatever rank of Flash of Light I try to use by 85. And that's basically the equivalent of like 200 plus healing. And the plus healing is super important for keeping ourselves as high HP as it is possible. So that's one of the really weird things that is just dictating these duels in general. Oh, also plus healing, even though Sheath of or Blessing of Light doesn't affect it. Plus healing affects. Yeah, we already talked about that. How much your Sacred Shield absorbs. You can see I'm cleansing all the dots to try to keep my HP as high as possible. I have a Sacred Shield up, and you get used to it. You're like, oh, I might get hit right now, so the Sacred Shield's going to activate. It was pretty obvious that the next hit was going to activate my Sacred Shield. So I decided to go for a Flash of Light because I wanted the increased 50% critical strike chance. If this Starfire crits me, I might be in trouble because it'll crit for like 1,700. But this is... yeah, we're just bubbling that. Is what it is, right? All right, so this is a little dangerous because he can Frenzy Regeneration now. The good news is he's low mana. But he can 100% do Frenzy Regeneration and just sit there and cast infinite Wraths into me. Why the Wraths don't suffer any spell pushback, I have no idea. I think this duel ends with him spamming Wraths into me and me having to... No, I think I just cut him to pieces. Yeah, I think he's just going to get cut to pieces. He needs to Frenzy Regeneration or die. Is this the one where... I don't know. Yeah, he just gets cut to pieces. Never mind. And then out come the hammers. I forgot I had like improved Hammer of Wrath. I have Wrath in this character. So I'll start chucking hammers at him and I'll just be like, oh, it's instant cast. I was like, oh shit. Alright, I forgot I had that rune. Never mind, just die. So that's the other interesting thing to talk about. Anyways, this concept is really hard to explain, but trust me, if you stack hit points and you care about nothing else and you start trying to heal yourself, you will notice this phenomena. You'll be like, I have 5,000 hit points and I go to heal myself and I run at the enemy and I can only top myself off to 3,500 HP. That sucks. 2 Holy Lights only healed me up to 3,500 HP. I can't, what, that sucks. And so basically you just start stacking spell power. Spell power and anything that gives you additional spell power like benefits and effects. So again, that's why Uther's Strength is here, because she effectively increases my plus healing, right? She's going to put a big fat HP shield on me when she procs. Whereas Mark of the Chosen, yeah, it'll give me plus 25 all stats, which is insane. But it's not doing anything to increase my healing capability, and it's dispellable. Which means I probably can't support that increase in HP pool. It is what it is, right? Other refinements that have taken place here are I've discovered a surprising increase in the need for mana. So, for example, in those duel videos that I was showing, I've only got like 3,300 mana, I think, and that's because I'm missing pieces of gear. So specifically, I'm missing the bracers, which have damage and healing plus 21, and they give stamina and intellect. And instead, I'm using the PvP bracers because I discovered that this stupid Void Invoker thing makes me go into Sunken Temple, and I wanted to make a bunch of dueling videos with a Paladin built without actually having to go into Sunken Temple. And so I don't have these cloth bracers, which would be far more ideal. If I've said this before, but I'll say it again, there are certain pieces of gear that you're allowed to swap out for like leather, cloth, and mail. They are specifically your bracers, your gloves, and your belt. You can see we have a cloth belt here because we want stamina, intellect, spell damage, or healing, and this just comes with spell hit, which I found incredibly useful. Why? Because your Hammer of Justice uses spell hit specifically. Your Judgments, I think, use melee hit, but they might use spell hit. I really don't know. And this gives this build like, a 4% spell hit, meaning that's going to be very, very unlikely that I miss. When your Hammer of Justice misses, it won't say miss, it'll say resist. But that's what's happening basically. But after PvPing, so when I was ranking, I only had like 2,500 I had the 4,000 hit points roughly, but I only had like 2,500 mana. And I definitely didn't have the spell power. And very quickly it became apparent that I needed to stack more mana. And it got even worse because I needed to take like Crusader Strike and stuff. So when I went back to the drawing board, I started looking for pieces, specifically the waist pieces, the wrist pieces, and like neck pieces, and I think even the cape pieces to get as much intellect on my Paladin as possible to effectively win more favorably all the mana wars I was finding myself in. When I was fighting Druid, I was discovering that I was in a mana war. When I was fighting mages, I discovered I was in a mana war. When I was fighting shamans, elemental shamans specifically, I discovered that I was in a mana war. When I was fighting shadow priests, mana war. And since I've also decided that we're going to take Crusader Strike, well, I'll talk about that when I get there, when I get to the runes, I really wanted to have as much standing HP as was physically possible to help me win those damn mana wars. Even the Paladin versus Paladin matchups often turn into mana wars. Although, if you're building your Paladin in Season of Discovery PvP to be able to dual rep Paladins, you're doing something terribly, terribly wrong. Even a butt-naked level 1 Paladin can easily beat any rep Paladin in the entire game in a duel. And they beat them by simply not dueling them. It's very, very, very easy. You win PvP against Paladins by not fighting them. So I pay very little attention to the Paladin matchup. I've never even made a Paladin versus Paladin guide. Even the choice of the pieces, right? Like knights imbued armor. So the choices of what armor is going where is to maximize mana. Because I discovered that I didn't need 4,000 hit points. 3,800 was feeling super, super comfy. Surviving all the bursts and so forth and so on, especially with Sacred Shield being damn near 300 HP. I wish I had the Void Bracers, and I wish I had the neck piece, because as you can see, we're missing something stupid, like almost 35 plus healing. This build only has 200 plus healing, so I'm missing like 15% plus healing. And you can imagine how good that would be if I could pick that up, but I don't have it, so it is what it is. What else is there to talk about? Right, the runes. Talents, you can literally do whatever you want. You can play this build as a Paladin build. You can play this build as... The gear is basically universal. It really doesn't matter. What really matters is the runes. Let me check to make sure I'm still recording here. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so we're 100% taking Sacred Shield in almost all matchups. The only matchup I can even think of where you wouldn't take Sacred Shield is specifically versus Rep Paladins, but that are taking Art of War. But I mean, like I said before, why the hell are we even bothering talking about Rep Paladins? You're never going to fight them unless you want to fight them. So, Sacred Shield. Oh, this tooltip actually tells me how much it will absorb. Is that right? Okay, so it's trying to tell me it'll absorb 242. That is very interesting. Maybe it actually does the calculation for me now. No idea. Yeah, but in the duels, I don't have anywhere near as much plus healing. But she's it's because Sheath of Light. Okay, I gotcha. Because Sheath of Light is active, but then that fire resist test, Sheath of Light wasn't active, and it was like 250. I have no idea. This tooltip's probably wrong. So you're taking Sacred Shield because she'll absorb a absolute metric shit ton of damage for you. She will once you get used to it, you can pretty comfortably and consistently get the plus 100% healing on her. That plus 50% critical strike chance is only active or in effect if the shield is up and hasn't been popped yet. And therefore, strengthening the shield with more plus healing and more spell power makes it all the more easier for you to actually make use of that plus 50% critical strike chance. The hot effect over 12 seconds is always in effect, and this pretty much dictates how you end up fighting as a paladin in general. So it's like every 12 seconds, when that hot runs out, you are flash of lighting yourself. And you're basically, if you watch the duels, you need to have a really good reason why you're not doing that. So, for example, if I'm physically on top of an enemy, that's the only, and I'm beating the crap out of them, that's the only time I would even remotely consider not stopping to heal, per se. One second, let me take a drink of water here. All right, cool. Yeah, but other than that, it'll be like, 12 seconds, the hots aren't rolling, flash of light yourself. You're also taking Sheath of Light for similar reasons. My theory about Enlightened Judgments is still good, but I think a lot of the rune spells have been pulled straight out of retail and plugged into Season of Discovery, and they're just not suffering spell pushback. It's actually super, super annoying. Or they're suffering like super reduced spell pushback, like they pull Lava Burst out of Wrath, right? And they put it into Classic WoW. And in Wrath, spell pushback will be like, only a quarter of a second spell pushback. And then you'll bitch slap them. You put a full fucking wreck bomb into them, and it won't even chunk their fucking their cast bar. So, and you can see that in the duels a lot. Like, I'll be exorcisming them at range. I'll be judging them at range. I'll be beating the crap out of them in melee. And a lot of these rune spells just aren't suffering spell pushback, it seems. So, the master plan of taking Enlightened Judgments and having, like, a jab effect and using spell pushback just isn't a thing right now because Blizzard basically gave every class in the game that is using spells and might suffer spell pushback, like, Eye of the Storm, effectively. I don't like this. It's bad game design, in my opinion, because it makes spellcasters significantly more powerful, which is really annoying. The other thing I don't like about it is that my fucking healing spells as a paladin are all still hard cast, and they're all still coded to take, like, classic WoW levels of spell pushback. So I exist in a world where my enemies don't suffer a classic WoW spell pushback, but if I want to fucking heal myself, I get the full go fuck myself treatment. So, at the end of the day, we're taking Sheath of Light. Sheath of Light, as you might imagine, really makes Sacred Shield absolutely amazing. Like I said, when Sheath of Light is active, in conjunction with this gear, and at current level, it's like a 300 HP shield. Super, super amazing. As you've seen, makes it incredibly easy to get those critical flash of lights off, and there's just really, really good synergy there. Exorcism is fine. I don't mind Exorcism at all. Rebuke is also amazing. Inspiration Exemplar is amazing. One nice thing about this build is that you are actually very, very free in what runes that you take here. You don't have to take Exorcist rune. So Avenger Shield is actually super, super good, believe it or not, even though I haven't been playing with it in a million years. Absolutely amazing to take Avenger Shield. That might be the level 60 meta, is for me to take Avenger Shield. I just take Exorcist because I'm feeling super comfy just running people down. I don't really need the Sacred Shield. The question is, what the hell am I going to Sacred Shield? Is like, am I going to Sacred Shield that mage? Am I going to Sacred Shield? The mage is probably just going to blink away. Am I going to Sacred Shield that Druid who's just going to shift out of it? Am I going to Sacred Shield that Shadow Priest? No, I'd probably want to have Inspiration Exemplar instead. Am I going to Sacred Shield that Warlock? No, I would rather have Inspiration Exemplar instead. What about a Rogue? It's like, okay, well, you could Sacred Shield a Rogue, but if they have improved evasion, that's not really going to do much of anything. Whereas Exorcism, you know, she does good damage. She's just that nice, well-rounded rune. That's just kind of like, whatever, we'll take Exorcism. However, Rebuke is also a serious consideration, believe it or not. Although I haven't played with it all that much. But the nice thing about this is you can take whatever rune you want in basically the leg slot, which is super, super nice. Hammer of Wrath. I think all of us Paladins have basically fallen in love with improved Hammer of Wrath at this point. Over Purifying Power, over Light's Grace, over Hammer of Righteousness. Especially for a Reckoning Paladin, improved Hammer of Wrath is absolutely fucking insane. She has a bunch of hidden things to her that this tooltip basically doesn't tell you. Some of the things that she doesn't say is that... how do I put this? Okay, so she's trying to say, I'll read it, right? Hammer of Wrath is now instant cast, and the cooldown on Hammer of Wrath is reset each time it damages an enemy below 10% life. So what it's not telling you is that if you throw a hammer, and that hammer is the one that drops them below 10% life, it refreshes the cooldown on Hammer of Wrath. Okay, you follow me on this? I think we saw it versus that Druid there. I probably can't come back. Well, you can go watch the dueling videos, I guess, if you want. It is what it is. But just take my word for it. If the target's at 20% life and you throw a hammer at them, and that hammer did 10.5% of the target's life and damage, your Hammer of Wrath will instantly refresh. There's other weird mechanics behind it. So the registration of damage and the reset actually comes before the Wrath and the health loss animation happens. So, for example, the hammer will visually be in the air like 5 yards away from the enemy, and you'll discover that you can now throw another hammer. The hammer hasn't hit yet. It hasn't actually done the damage yet, but the game just says you can throw another fucking hammer, which is kind of fascinating and weird. So you'll see multiple hammers in the air at the same time. Hammer of Wrath's base cooldown in Classic is 1 second. It's not 1.5 second. Hodge Stun's cooldown is also 1 second rather than 1.5 seconds. So basically what this means is that you just get to chuck hammer after hammer after hammer after hammer. It doesn't just reset. Oh yeah, that's the other weird thing about it. It doesn't just reset the hammer, right? It says reset, instantly resets the cooldown on Hammer of Wrath. But what it doesn't tell you is it also instantly resets the global cooldown on Hammer of Wrath. So, for example, there's been a Shadow Priest in a Wrathy Basin where I literally had like 3 hammers in the air at one time. Don't ask me how that's even fucking possible. But there was like 3 for like a millisecond. There was like 3 hammers in the air at the same time. It was really funny. But yeah, this thing just becomes a machine gun when the enemy gets low life. Absolutely devastating. It's probably the highest DPS in the entire game. For a Reckoning Paladin, this is amazing because it makes your Wreck Bomb super fucking deadly. Like, way more deadly than it has any right to be. Taking Hammer of Wrath. Purifying Power is still really good and a close second, but Hammer of Wrath is just absolutely amazing. Purifying Power has a bit of a problem in that she doesn't have a mana reduction on Exorcism like Art of War. And if you're using Exorcism on a 7.5 second cooldown, she'll you pretty damn quickly. Whereas Hammer of Wrath doesn't really have that problem because while the Hammer of Wraths are expensive, when you're using them, the enemy is fucking dead, right? It's not really like yeah. But in theory, now in theory, the choice here obviously is between Improved Hammer of Wrath and Purifying Power, right? If we take Improved Wrath, the advantage here is that we don't have to take Exorcism anymore, And suddenly we have our leg slot much more freer for all the goodies in there, like, Avenger Shield, a bunch of the other really amazing stuff in the leg slot. So that is one huge advantage of taking Hammer of Wrath over Purifying Power. The other huge advantage of taking Hammer of Wrath over Purifying Power is she's much better on your mana. She's also much better on your GCDs. You're not so GCD stressed when you take Improved Hammer of Wrath. When she activates, the enemy is absolutely fucking dead. She makes Wreck Bombs significantly more powerful because all you have to do is drop the enemy below 20% life, and they're basically just going to get hammered into oblivion. Hammer of Wrath also has a 100% critical strike chance, and she does use your melee crit. So if you combined her with, say... other weird things about Hammer of Wrath, they'll actually cause weapon procs and oil procs, and literally it counts as like a melee hit for all extensive purposes, if you didn't know that. But you combined it, of course, with the fanaticism, and next thing you know, this thing's got like a 25% critical strike chance. When Hammer of Wrath crit, they do ×2 damage, and very, very, very few things in the entire game survive Hammer of Wrath when they're critting you. Sometimes you end up in these weird situations because the thing is instant castable. Is that you'll like Wreck Bomb someone, they'll drop below 20% life. You'll throw a hammer at them immediately. And remember, it has that weird... it's registering that you're dropping them below 10% life, and it's refreshing the cooldown within 5 yards. So if you're physically on top of the enemy after you Wreck Bomb them, and you Wreck Bomb someone, you just spam a Hammer of Wrath, just in case you drop them to 20% life. I've had situations where, there's two different situations that sometimes apply. So the enemy will drop they'll drop to 20% life, the Hammer of Wrath will fly out and be in the air. Then they'll Whipper Root Tuber, but the Wrath will crit them and drop them below 10% life, which means that more Hammer of Wraths are coming out anyways. So I've had that happen. I've had other scenarios where the exact same thing plays out. They drop below 20% life. I Wrath them. It instantly refreshes, so I throw another Wrath in the air. I see them catch a heal, or they Whip Root Tuber, or they heal potion or something. Their health shoots back up above 20%, but it doesn't fucking matter because there's 2 Hammer of Wraths in the fucking air. So the first Hammer of Wrath doesn't get them below 10%, but the next one comes in and does. There's some weird fucking shit that happens with Hammer of Wrath. So what it doesn't, because of the things it doesn't tell you, it instantly refreshes the ability, and it refreshes the GCD. So you'll get these weird scenarios where you Wreck Bomb someone and you just start clicking the button, and you'll see their health will yo-yo all over the place, and the Wraths just don't care because they just keep flowing out of you. So Improved Hammer of Wrath, absolutely disgusting, absolutely amazing. Love that spell for all the reasons that she doesn't tell me. In theory, I'd probably go Avenger Shield eventually when I feel more confident in my Paladin play over Exorcism, just because she's more tactical, but I just love those two combinations. So you have... these two are basically Battle Brothers, these two slots right here. Sacred Shield and Sheath of Light are also Battle Brothers. Sheath of Light, I didn't talk about it, of course. It also has that effect that if you crit heal, it puts another damn hot on you. It's amazing synergy between these two runes. Amazing synergy between these two rune slots. Fanaticism is just there, helping the synergy here, right? She's going to improve your Hammer of Wrath critical strike chance, doing double damage, which causes more hammers to come out and do terrible, awful, no good things. She's also increasing the critical strike chance of your Flashes of Light, which is going to help Holy Lights as well, which is going to help Sheath of Light, which is going to help Sacred Shield do its damn job, right? Seal of Martyrdom. I don't know what I'll take in the future. A Horn of Lordaeron is starting to get really, really powerful. I might end up taking Horn of Lordaeron over Seal of Martyrdom. But Seal of Martyrdom for a Reckoning Paladin is kind of still the way to go, because it still gives you by far the most powerful Wreck Bomb. The mana regeneration you get from it is not half bad. No, this Paladin is using a plus healing gear predominantly. So, for example, if I scroll down, you can see that my spell damage is only like, with Sheath of Light active, maybe I have 200 spell damage, which isn't all that, which is okay, but it's not all that great. But in the future, I might, when we get proper Paladin PvP gear, you might see me using Horde of Lordaeron, and then either a Seal of Command, no joke, or Seal of Righteousness in the future. That might be the way to go, but as it stands, Seal of Martyrdom is always going to give you the most powerful Wreck Bomb possible. You can Seal Twist it, of course, to get an even more powerful Wreck Bomb, which I just don't do right now. I just grind people into pulp the same way that I've always done. The Wreck Bomb currently just isn't powerful enough to really get the job done, but I haven't tried Seal Twisting it. Usually I just put a Wreck Bomb into them and start spamming Hammer of Wrath and just see what happens. If I Seal Twist, it'll lessen the effectiveness of the Hammer of Wrath, but it might be what actually drops it down. So I don't know. I probably should start Seal Twisting on the bomb and just getting used to that. So let's talk about the elephant in the room here. So for ages, I've been telling you guys to take Hand of Reckoning, take Hand of Reckoning, take Hand of Reckoning, and then don't take Crusader Strike. The problem is they keep buffing Crusader Strike, so that now Crusader Strike is actually kind of worth it. If you recall, I think Crusader Strike used to do less damage. It was like 50% of your weapon damage. No. It was 75% of your weapon damage, but it wasn't holy damage. It was like physical damage. Then they made it holy damage, and then it used to be like 2% of your maximum mana, and then they made it 5% of your maximum mana. And then they gave it that it refreshes the judgment, the duration of all your judgments to 30 seconds. That's not what happens. Yeah. Which is good. What this thing actually does is it makes every auto attack you do, or Crusader Strike that you do on the enemy, will cause your judgments on them to last 30 seconds. This is kind of insane. And it's basically a mana save if you really want to think about it. But later on, when we're judging Crusader into the target, so right now when we judge Crusader into the target, it's only worth like plus 100 spell holy damage spell power. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Later it'll be worth 200 at level 60, and that's when Crusader Strike is really amazing. But the whole reason why I'm taking Crusader Strike these days is because I've discovered I really don't need Hand of Reckoning. My HP bar, I don't need the super thick HP bar. Again, I feel super comfortable at 3,800 HP, especially with Sacred Shield doing its damn thing, especially with all the HOTS rolling. If you actually watch the duels, I very rarely drop low enough life that I can even really make use of Hand of Reckoning. Even though in some matchups it'll probably be really good. Like I stated, a lot of the matchups are just mana wars for me. And because they're mana wars, Crusader Strike just ends up being worth its weight in gold. Crusader Strike is worth so much fucking mana to you that she ends up being just the way to go. And the 30-second duration on your judgments is also basically worth a shit ton of mana. It's also worth a shit ton of damage if you think about it, because you don't have to like refresh Judgment of Wisdom or Judgment of Light on the target. So they just buffed Crusader Strike so much over and over and over again that I'm basically just like, fine, fuck it, whatever. I'll take Crusader Strike over Hand of Reckoning. So after playtesting, I discovered I did not need the increase in durability from Hand of Reckoning. I was feeling super comfortable as is. I could very, very, very much use the increase in mana from Crusader Strike. The bonus damage from Crusader Strike is basically just I want a double bonus. The bonus damage from Crusader Strike is also a bonus. It's just icing on the cake. There we go. That's what I was looking for. But since I started taking Crusader Strike, I was like, whoa. Let's try to get this mana bar as thick and as juicy as possible, since Crusader Strike scales with the mana regeneration scales, which is how thick your mana bar is. To this end, you'll notice that my weapon enchant, which I didn't have in any of these duels, is +9 intellect. Eventually, at level 60, You might want to have. I might go with the plus 55 healing. It's really hard to say on the weapon. But of course, the other option is like 22 intellect. Like, what the fuck? So I can have like a 4,000 thick mana bar at current level, which is just actually objectively ridiculous. I do believe that means Crusader Strike, every time you use it, will just give you 200 mana. And of course, you'll have Judgment of Wisdom on the target, so odds are you're going to get more like 250 mana on every Crusader Strike. It's just beautiful. You'll notice in a lot of these duels, I'm just absolutely mana warring people into the fucking dirt. And that's at 3,300 mana, let alone, and only 200 plus healing, let alone, like, the massive increase, the 15% increase in plus healing / spell power, and going from 3,000, like the 500 increase in mana that this, the extra gear and the weapon enchant would give me. So yeah, no, super comfy. I'm really digging it. And I could do better rings, believe it or not. There's a lot of little things that you could adjust here. There's also better trinkets, theoretically, that I could use. But the fire resist is just absolutely worth its weight in gold. Some matchups that I haven't been able to showcase yet that hopefully I can is, like, first, Elemental Shaman. Let me take a drink of water. So when I've had 1v1 engagements with Elemental Shamans, the situation is, it really depends on what type of shaman I'm dealing with. Enhancement shamans right now are insanely good. They're like, if you had to make a list of the most terrifying PvP classes in the game, enhancement shaman would be S tier right now. She's top of the list. The only other one that even comes close to being top of the list, up there with enhancement shaman, as near as I can tell, is Soul Link Unstable Affliction Warlock. Like, whoever decided to give Warlocks Unstable Affliction, and let's just go over here really fast, because this actually pisses me off. Like, whoever did this at Blizzard, if I could punch them in the face, I would. Like, brother, what the hell are you thinking? What the fuck is wrong with you? Alright, so you'll notice that Dark Pact Affliction. Okay. Yeah, so one of these is going to say Unstable Affliction. It's got to be new, right? So I guess that would be Wrist. Yeah, Unstable Affliction. Okay. So whoever's bright fucking ass idea it was to give Warlocks Unstable Affliction, okay, and to not have it be opportunity costed against Siphon Light, needs to be fucking punched in the face. Somebody punch him in the face. Her, him, her, it, ZZ, her, I don't give a fuck. Punch it in the fucking face. Okay, why is this? Well, Unstable Affliction is a Wrist, right? Unstable Affliction, I do believe, is like a level 51 TBC talent, right? So it's very, very deep in the Affliction talent tree historically. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because Affliction Paladins are very, very squishy. Okay, they are squishy. Soul Link does not have access to anything like Unstable Affliction because Soul Link Warlocks are stupidly, insanely fucking hard to kill, right? They're the thing that's often banned in dueling tournaments because they just do not fucking die. The only thing that's been able to even remotely put them in the dirt consistently are properly played Paladins. So in classic World of Warcraft, this fucking genius decided to give Soul Link Warlocks, so Warlocks that are super deep in the demonology tree, a level 51 talent from TBC that is not balanced at all for people putting fucking points in yeah, you get the idea, right? So, honestly, I don't mind that Unstable Affliction exists. It just 100% needs to move its happy little ass over here and be opportunity costed against Soul Siphon. Like, it needs to be swapped out with something here. Master Channeler, let's see. Yeah, okay, that's actually Master Channeler that it needs to be opportunity costed. So one of these fucking things needs to move its happy little ass over to the wrist slot. An Unstable Affliction needs to pop its happy little ass out of here and come on over to the over to the chest slot. Because when you don't do that, what ends up happening is the following. We now have to fight. Listen to this shit, okay? Because this is probably the most terrifying PvP spec in the entire game currently that nobody can fucking beat. And when I mean nobody, I mean fucking nobody. If you know a class or spec that can actually kill these fuckers, let me know. We have to deal with Soul Link Warlocks, okay? That have Master Channeler, so they can suck the life out of you. They have Haunt, which also is a dot that effectively sucks the life out of you. So that's 2 dots. Then they can put Corruption on you. That's 3 dots. Then they can put Curse of Agony or Curse of Elements and reduce your fucking resistances. So you can't even combat them by wearing Shadow Resist or Fire Resist anymore. Specifically, it'd be Shadow Resist. And then some fucking genius decided to also give soul-linked warlocks that can suck your fucking health away and can put 4 fucking dots on you. Unstable Affliction for the 5th and final dot. So now you can't even cleanse the that shit off of you anymore. I don't know how these fucking things die. This is like the stuff of nightmares. Like what the fuck are you thinking? Blizzard, holy shit. So whoever just gave them Unstable Affliction, and so now we have soul-linked warlocks running around that can put 5 fucking dots on you. One of them happens to suck your life away. Or no, 2 of those dots are sucking your life away. One of them is stopping you from cleansing the damn thing. And oh, by the way, when Unstable Affliction crits, it does like ×2 damage. And it's just like, holy fuck, bro. So yeah, so just move it and make it opportunity costed against Channel Mastery. I'm not even mad that it's in the game, but Soul Link Warlock absolutely does not need to have a level 51 talent that was balanced around the fact that you cannot be a Soul Link Warlock and ever take Unstable Affliction. Okay? Oh, in Wrath, can you be a Soul Link Warlock and take Unstable Affliction? Fuck no, you can't. Can you do that in TBC? Fuck no, you can't. Can you do that in Classic? Well, the spell doesn't exist in Classic, but if it did, it would be the level 41 talent point in Affliction. So the answer is, fuck no, you can't. Why are we so angry about Soul Link? Well, let's read it here for a second, right? Let's see. Does it get improved? Improved Spellstone? No. When active, 30% of all damage you take is redirected to your Voidwalker, your Succubus, basically your pet. In addition, both the Demon Mastery will inflict 3% more damage, blah, 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 blah. The reason why Soul Link Warlocks don't die is they effectively have a 30% damage reduction. They basically have on top of them. And then they can very quickly get out 2 pets almost instantly. So if they want to go maximum durability, they'll have like a Voidwalker, and they'll Soul Link their Voidwalker, so they take 30% less damage. Even if you try to kill the Voidwalker right before it dies, they'll turn it into like a 3,000 HP shield on themselves, and then they can, like a 1-second spell cast, they can get out like another Voidwalker. They Soul Link it up, and you just have to deal with that shit, all that stuff in general. Their primary weakness, a Soul Link Warlock's primary weakness, is that they do not do a lot of damage, and a lot of their damage is dot-based, which means if you can cleanse or dispel it off of you, then they don't do all that much damage in the grand scheme of things. If they have to stop and cast Shadow Bolts at you, the Shadow Bolts aren't really all that impressive, which is why Paladins can kind of take them on. Because they can cleanse all the dots off of them, the damage isn't all that terrible, yada yada yada, right? But the moment you give these fuckers Unstable Affliction, and on top of that you give them multiple abilities that let them heal themselves on top of having a 30% damage reduction, it's just fucking retarded. Which is why I'm not mad that it's in the game. I hate the fact that it's opportunity costed against nothing! Right? So if you moved Unstable Affliction over to the chest slot and you made them, so you pulled out maybe Siphon Soul, increase the amount drained by your Drain Life, and Drain Soul spell, additional 6% of the Warlock Shadow. Thanks, target. Okay. Yeah, just pull one of these out and put Unstable Affliction here. I wouldn't even matter if you pulled out Soul Siphon. Lake of Fire is also fine. I don't care what you're pulling out here and replacing. But Unstable Affliction is just, what the fuck are we doing? It gets worse. Unstable Affliction is another one of those spells that doesn't seem to suffer any spell pushback when it's casted. So I'll like jump on the Warlocks that are casting Unstable Affliction. I'll hit them with like a full Wreck Bomb, and it's just a 2-second spell cast. They just sit there and they just shove it down your fucking throat, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it, which is just ugh. I hate it. I can't stand it. Right, back to Enhancement Shamans. Enhancement Shamans are cracked out of their gourd right now because, well, a few reasons, right? They also have that opportunity cost issue with Shamanistic Rage that I made an entire fucking Rage video about. Basically, they have infinite mana. They can use 2 shocks on you at the same time. Their DPS when they jump on you is absolutely insane. And what's worse is they can heal while DPSing, while purging, all at the same time. So one thing I'm really, really despising as a Paladin right now, when fighting specifically Enhancement Shamans, is the fact that they can do shit tons of damage. They can heal themselves like gods. And at the same time, they're super free with the GCDs to just purge the crap out of me. Just about... how do I put this? Purge is still as oppressive as it's always been against a Paladin, because our seals can be purged off, our sacred shield can be purged off, our hots can be purged off. They can literally run up to me and tell me to go fuck myself with a on a crazy number of my runes, and there isn't really... I can't play that game with them from a GCD's perspective, right? So I'll go Sacred Shield, they'll go Purge. I'll go Sacred Shield, I'll go Purge. They'll go Purge. I'll go Sacred Shield, I'll go Purge. And look at what my life looks like, okay? So let's say an Enhancement Shaman and a Paladin are fighting each other, and all the Paladin is doing is purging. Or my bad. All the Paladin is doing is refreshing Sacred Shield, and all the Shaman is doing is purging, okay? What does life look like? Well, I'm worse than an auto-attacking Andy because I can't even keep my seal up anymore. Because the Purge dispels 2 buffs. Which means if I reseal myself, it gets purged off. If I put Sacred Shield up, it gets purged off. Seal, purge, shield, purge, seal, purge, shield, purge, seal, purge. Which means I cannot keep a seal up to save my fucking life when fighting these guys. I certainly can't keep any blessing on myself. I can't Crusader Strike. I can Crusader Strike technically, but I don't have a seal anymore. The point is, it doesn't let me play my class. Meanwhile, I'm dealing with this dual-wielding, wind-fearing fuckwit, right? Which is, so they super out-damage you in melee because you're not allowed to have a seal up anymore. Now, historically, this would not be a problem when fighting Enhancement Shamans because Enhancement Shamans have mana issues, right? They can jump all over you, and it's like, yeah, they can keep purging the crap out of your seals, but they're going to kind of lose a mana war. And then you kind of start finding yourself having to holy light yourself because you can't deal with their DPS. You can't win a damage war against them because they constantly are purging off your seal. And this basically forces you into a situation where you start having to spam holy lights, and then you go back to like trying to auto attack them. It's not a, but if you can survive all of the Enhancement Shamans, this is like classic WoW, right? Like era, on classic era. If you can survive long enough, they'll eventually start having mana problems because Purge is like 152 mana at level 60, and you're usually giving them like a 60 mana seal to purge off. You just have to kind of like weather the storm until they get low on mana, and then you can start finally keeping your seal up and kind of sort of fighting back, right? So the matchup is very dynamic on Era, but it is definitely Paladin favored. In Season of Discovery, because they get infinite mana from Shamanistic Rage, that's just not there anymore. So you're fighting a class that will easily out-heal however much damage you're doing to them. You cannot keep a seal up on yourself to save your fucking life. They'll just purge it off of you. You can't keep Sacred Shield up. They'll just purge it off of you. If you had Art of War rather than Sacred Shield, it's greatly diminished in its effectiveness because you can't keep a fucking seal on you. which is just, they don't let you play your class, which is really fun. Meanwhile, they're not smacking you with a two-handed weapon. They're dual-wielding Wind Fury crap into you. And they have infinite mana, so you're just going to lose a mana war. So if you've ever experienced what's like fighting an enhancement shaman, basically they basically run up and they start deep dicking you, and you're just like, okay, well, I can out heal this for a while until I go and then this fucker just wins. The only correct course of action against an enhancement shaman is to avenge or shield them and run away. That is one of the other advantages against Affliction Warlock still, is I can't beat the Affliction Warlock and I can't beat the Enhancement Shaman, but in both cases I can still slow them or stun them with a grenade and just run away in a straight line, and I'll make it away just fine. Just spam Cleanse Yourself and so forth and so on. Some other tricks that you're going to have to use against Shamans is if they have all their totems down, your first course of action when you run up to them is going to be that you want to, judge kill this totem, auto attack kill that totem, Crusader Strike kill that totem. You just want to kill all the totems as quickly as possible. There's no reason to let them have 4 fucking totems. It costs them a GCD to put down a totem, so you might as well just start hacking away at them. But those are the 2 matchups that I absolutely cannot win. Elemental Shaman's a completely different story, however. Elemental Shaman versus this particular Paladin build basically looks like 2 retards trying to fuck. And I mean that in no uncertain terms. And the reason for this is because the Elemental Shaman is basically just flame shocking you and lava bursting you. And eventually they figure out that your fire resist and your sacred shield are effectively making that like a non-viable way to go. And they start trying to like chain lightning and earth light lightning bolting you. But their chain lightning and their lightning bolts are super mana inefficient. They don't hit anywhere near as hard as they should. And they're really hard to spellcast. And a lot of shamans right now aren't even taking it. They're taking completely different runes. Believe it or not, I can't click this button. That's nice. Tools, Gear Planner, Shaman, Orc. Yeah, sure. And then we'll go to Talents. So they're not even going all the way down enough to put points into Lightning Mastery, which even make Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt viable. I think they're going deep enough to get Elemental Fury right now, and then I think they're going deep enough to get Nature Swiftness, but I could be wrong. So sometimes you're dealing with an Elemental Fury guy. It just is what it is, right? I guess I'm wrong about that. I guess they're either full deep down here, or one of them takes like this build right here. I just don't know. Interesting. But basically you have enough fire resist that Earth Shock and Lava Burst really don't do all that much to you. And your life is like, I'm auto-attacking this shaman who's not letting me have a seal, of course, because that's still a thing, right? If I'm Sacred Shielding and he's purging, I'm not allowed to have a seal. If I'm casting Seal and he's purging, I'm not allowed to have a seal. I might be allowed to have a seal, but I'm certainly not allowed to have Sacred Shield, and Sacred Shield is more important. So the matchup is literally I Sacred Shield, he purges, I Sacred Shield, he purges, I Sacred Shield, he purges. He Flame Shocks me, which activates, which only does like, which does greatly reduced damage to me. Only does like 275 as opposed to 400 on average. I then Flash of Light myself, or I cleanse it off immediately and then I go for a Flash of Light, because they flame shock you and then they start casting Lava Burst in your face. Except that whole process takes 3.5 seconds because Flame Shock, 1.5 second GCD, and then the Lava Burst is a 2-second spell cast, and only after 3.5 seconds can they get another Purge off on you. But the Flame Shock will activate your Sacred Shield because you're refusing to let Sacred Shield fall off, even though they're purging the crap out of you. It activates your Sacred Shield, which gives you like, a 300 HP absorb shield gets activated. Your next Flash of Light has like an 80% chance to crit. So you just cleanse off the dot. They start casting Lava Burst. You go for a Flash of Light. You'll get the Flash of Light off long before they'll get off the Lava Burst. There's an extremely good chance that it'll crit. When it does crit, it'll put like 3 dots or 2 hots on you. So now they have 3 things they need to spell. So it's going to take them 2 purges to get all that crap off of you. The Lava Burst comes in. It may or may not crit. There's a really low chance that it will crit. Usually it doesn't crit. She'll hit for about 800 damage. But let's pull up the calculator here really fast. Yeah. But your fire resist usually is like a 30% damage reduction. So rather than hitting for 800, she only hits for like 560 due to the resistance. And then Sacred Shield ends up reducing that by like another 300. So you can see the Lava Burst literally just tickles you. So it's like bink. So the Flame Shock hits you for like 275. And the Lava Burst on average might hit you for like, a bit more than that. So you take about 600 damage in total from all of that. And your Flash of Light basically will damn near out heal all of that. Your Flash of Light will out heal that damage. This is why it looks like 2 retards trying to fuck, right? Because they're trying to kill you, but the combination of Fire Resist and Sacred Shield and you just playing correctly just doesn't make it work. When their Lava Burst and their Flame Shock are on cooldown, you have all these hots rolling, so they have to get like double purge you to get that off of you again. And during this time when they have to double purge you, that's when you hit them with a Crusader Strike. And the Crusader Strike, when you have 3,800 mana bar, is going to give you back a shit ton of mana. Are you guys follow me on this? On top of that, they can't do anything about you judging wisdom on them. Also, you don't need to be using a 2-handed weapon for all this. You can be using a 1-handed weapon and get even more mana back from the scenario. The reason why it looks like 2 retards trying to fuck is because the Elemental Shaman cannot kill the Paladin. But the Paladin, unless the Paladin ooms, the Shaman cannot kill you. But the Shaman can't you because you're very comfortably out healing what he's doing. Purge and Sacred Shield have a very similar mana cost to them. I think Purge at current level is like 112-ish mana. I know it's 152 at level 60. And Sacred Shield is like 150 mana right now. And with Judgment of Wisdom in effect, and with Crusader, they might as well be basically the same thing. So you're almost trading mana point for mana point back and forth between the two of you. And because they have Shamanistic Rage and they can regenerate 75% of their mana bar back every minute of cooldown, what the fuck? The Shaman basically never runs out of mana. You're not allowed to have a seal on you, so you can never even do enough damage to actually threaten them from a DPS perspective. And it basically just turns into a draw. Again, it looks like 2 retards trying to fuck. The only thing that would counter this, this state of affairs might change at level 60, because at level 60, 2 things happen. Paladin gets a 3-second, my bad. They get +1 second on their Hodge stun, right? Their Hodge stun actually becomes a 6-second stun as opposed to a 5-second stun. And since Hodge stun does have a 1-second GCD to it, this is actually a massive increase in the amount of stun length and the amount of things that you can do. It causes, effectively, it gives you like 4 seconds of action time, changes to 5 seconds of action time, which is an insane difference. At level 60, you pick up Eye for an Eye as a Paladin, which is the game changer in all this. Because what you can start doing as a Reckoning Paladin specifically is you can not hit them for mana back anymore. And instead, you just use your insane mana bar to just out heal them and to charge up a full Wreck Bomb. Because you can charge up a full Wreck Bomb, but they can't really charge up a full Wreck Bomb. And you just kind of patiently wait until you have a full Wreck Bomb, and then you just go all in on them with the full Wreck Bomb. And there's a not unreasonable chance that our Wreck Bomb might actually be powerful enough at level 60 to drop them within Hammer of Wrath range. And if they do get dropped within Hammer of Wrath range, you're just going to explode from Wrath. But you actually do need the increased stun time from Hammer of Justice, and you probably are using like the big one bomb to really get as much stun in as possible. I think the max amount of stun that we can get is like I want to say it's like 9.5 seconds. It's like 6.5 seconds stun duration if you have the ZG neck piece trinket, or the ZP neck piece. Then the big one is 5 second stuns, but she is she'll have half duration, so she's only 2.5 seconds. So at that point you are 7. Yeah, you're an 8-second stun. And then you can do like a Goblin Mortar or a Grenade still. But you probably want to use Sapper Charge instead. So you're probably looking at Goblin Mortar. But your trinkets would probably be like Goblin Mortar. I don't know. Yeah, it might be like Goblin Mortar or 6 Demon Bag, because 6 Demon Bag has 100% spell power ratio behind it. So she will actually fucking slap. Sapper Charge is definitely going to be in that equation. You're definitely going to want to Seal Twist. It's going to be Seal of Martyrdom, Seal Twist, but they might purge that off you because, again, they're not letting you play the fucking game. But if you time it right, you know what I mean? You have a full Wreck Bomb, they're going for their Lava Burst. Oh, yeah, you're all in on that shit. Eye for an Eye is super critical here because you don't want, when you're going for that particular bomb, you don't want to cleanse the Flame Shock. You want it to crit you. And ideally, you don't even have Sacred Shield on you. You just want it to fucking crit you. Because you want to eat that, 3,000 fucking critical damage or whatever the hell it's going to be at level 60 for Shaman. Probably won't be 3,000. Yeah, it'll be 3,000. What am I smoking? It'll probably be 2,000 with the damage reduction in the future. But the fact that they're taking 600 fucking magic damage from Eye for an Eye there is super worth it in the grand scheme of things. Not to mention, if you time your swing right, which is pretty easy to do. You swing it like the very last moment before the Lava Burst hits you. You won't get 5 Reckoning hits. You'll get 6 Reckoning hits because of the guaranteed crit from Lava Burst there. But Eye for an Eye should do enough damage, especially if they're doing like a proper burst. Like if they've Nature's Swiftness out, like a Chain Lightning into a Lava Burst into you. God help them, you're just going to Wreck Bomb out of existence. So we might be able to get a Wreck Bomb that is actually powerful enough to drop them below 20% life, and then Improved Hammer of Wrath is just going to do the job from there. Of course, if it's in conjunction with all the stuns, if you're like stunning them for 8-9 seconds, they're just going to get hacked to pieces. But right now, you can't do that, especially in Battlegrounds where's the main places where you're fighting them. They just have way too much HP. Reckoning just doesn't do anything. Oh, Jesus. There's so much to talk about. So much that I've learned. Yeah, so looks like 2 retards trying to fuck, which is really annoying. Fighting rogues is super annoying. For some reason, a lot of their stuff doesn't... A lot of those stuns that are going off all over the place don't share CDs with each other. So, for example... rogues can gouge stun you for 5.5 seconds. That's their frontal stun. They can gouge stun you for 5.5 seconds, which does not seem to share a CD with anything. So they can range shoot you and stun you, and then they can run up and gouge stun you. Hell, I think they can open on you for a damn near 10 seconds of stun. When you finally come out of those 10 seconds of stun, if you spin around and face them, they can gouge stun you for another 5.5 seconds and continue having their way with you. And then they can gouge stun you again after that for only half the duration. It's completely broken. But luckily you are Reckoning Paladin and you kind of sort of don't give a fuck. Super tough, super hard to kill. Sacred Shield just does an absolute number on them, at least in duels. In the open world, the T's, not my bad, the rogues that you run into are almost universally Thistle Teeing. So for example, a rogue opener should only do maybe 40% of my life at most if I have Sacred Shield up. But if they Thistle Tee, they have enough. They can gain enough combo points and they can do enough damage to you that they can almost one-shot you. So when you get opened up on a rogue, you basically have to stare at their energy bar, and if their energy bar all of a sudden shoots back up again, you basically just bubble instantly. To try to mitigate against it. So you'll bubble instantly. You'll throw a hodge stun at them. They'll probably trinket the hodge stun so they don't get wreck bombed out of existence, and they'll try to run away. What's really gonna hurt them, especially at level 60, however, is the lasting judgments in conjunction with purifying power, in conjunction with exorcism, doesn't let them drop combat, right? Because you have a 40-yard range judgment on an 8-second cooldown, and then you have a 30-yard range exorcism on a 30-yard range cooldown. And so it becomes very easy just to keep them in combat and heal to full. But you don't have a choice. You have to bubble the Thistle Tea, because the Thistle Tea will cause them to do so much damage anyways that you have to bubble. So you might as well bubble at like 40% life rather than bubbling at 10% life and them getting the bubble anyways. It's kind of super important for keeping them in combat, because it means that you can do one holy light and one flash of light, and then just start chasing after them and just keep pelting them with spells and keeping them in combat. Got to get the hodge stun on cooldown as quickly as possible, or you got to get their PvP trinket out of them as quickly as possible. But once their PvP trinket is down, if you catch them in a stun with a wreck bomb, they're gonna fucking just get absolutely obliterated, which is really nice. And of course, at level 60, we get the 35-second hodge stun, which would be so much better than the 45-second hodge stun, because things are so accelerated in Season of Discovery. But it was interesting to note that fucking Gouge is so fucking oppressive in Season of Discovery, because it doesn't share a cooldown with a bunch of the other stuns that are currently in the game that the rogues have available to them. And I was just like, that's fucking stupid. They can even grenade stun you for like 3 seconds and then run up to you and gouge stun you for like another 5.5 seconds. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So, yeah, that's really annoying. Other things that I've observed is that Reckoning Paladin right now is not very good. And the reason why Reckoning Paladin is not very good is because she's missing a crap ton of her tools. Like, for example, she's missing Eye for an Eye. She's missing the 6-second stun. She's missing the 35-second cooldown on the 6-second stun. Everybody and their dog has a PvP trinket that can now get out of the stun, such as rogues, which is really annoying. But more importantly than all of that, right? She's missing Eye for an Eye too. But more importantly than all of that is the fact that gearing wise, all the classes are basically forced to pick between between Critical Strike and what I'm trying to explain is that the gearing in the game currently is high stamina, especially in Battlegrounds. It's high stamina, and in the Stranglethorn Vale PvP events. It's high stamina, low critical strike chance. Most classes only have like a 15% critical strike chance, whereas in the future, you can expect them to have like a 30% critical strike chance. If you're dueling a Reckoning Paladin, the way you properly duel a Reckoning Paladin is to gear to have high stamina and low critical strike chance. Okay? And this just happens to be precisely what Blizzard have made the PvP scenarios that you're most likely to fight a lot of classes in, right? If you go into Battlegrounds or you go into Stranglethorn Vale, everyone gets a 30% bonus to their HP. Everyone has extra buffs, so they're going to be like, super HP heavy, and then they all have like 15% critical strike at most. So they're all high stamina, low critical strike chance, which is not the ideal situation at all for a Reckoning Paladin. That's precisely the scenario that a Reckoning Paladin does not want to be in. There's a shit ton of spells flying around with a high percentage of spell critical strike chance, but we don't have Eye for an Eye, which is also a place that we don't want to be in. So I find myself in these weird scenarios, like take Enhancement Shaman, for example, right? Sometimes I'll run up and fight an Enhancement Shaman and I'll get absolutely decimated, and I won't even be able to really move his health bar at all because I can't out damage their hot that basically they're Riptide and their Maelstrom healing. I can't out DPS that because I don't have a fucking seal. Right? I'm not allowed a seal when I fight these fucking guys. I just get absolutely mauled to death. Other times I'll clash with an enhancement shaman and half their HP will disappear instantly. They'll fall below 20% within a matter of seconds. And then I usually lose anyways. But there's just an ocean of difference between I can't even do anything. Their health bar is not even dropping below 90%. And holy shit, this thing just lost all of its fucking life and is about to die to instant Hammer of Wrath if it doesn't, like, instantly Riptide or Maelstrom heal or Whipper Root Tuber or Healing Potion or something like that, which they usually do, and so I can't kill them with the Wraths. But specifically what's happening there is sometimes when I'm fighting them, they don't crit me for shit. And other times when I'm fighting them, especially on the Clash, like, they like double Wind Fury proc and they get like, 5 crits into me out the gate, and they do shit tons of damage to me, right? My health bar goes down by like, 30%, but they just eat a wreck bomb in their fucking face while I still have a seal up and active, and so they just lose 50% of their life right off the bat. And they just keep critting me, which is why they just keep getting nuked out they just keep getting mauled. That will be the normal state of affairs at level 60, but it's not the normal state of affairs right now. The point is that Reckoning scales extremely hard with enemy critical strike chance. But the proper gearing for fighting a Reckoning Paladin is to have high stamina, low critical strike, and the best possible DPS gear in the game for people is going to see them having high stamina and low critical strike chance. So Reckoning and Battlegrounds, not the greatest thing in the world right now. I'm not super happy with it. World PvP, it's not the worst thing in the world because you can pre-charge your Wreck Bomb, and you could just say hello to them and give them the business, and they'll just kind of die horribly. Worst case scenario, if you're getting your dick mauled off, absolutely deep-throated by them, you just, because they don't have a lot of tools to get out of slows, believe it or not. We got decoy, right? Nah. They don't have a lot of tools to get out of slows. So you can just Avenger Shield them, or Grenade Stun them, or Goblin Mortar them, or Gnomish Detomatic them, and just run away in a straight line. Just be like, all right, fine, whatever, I can't win, so you just take the draw. So not that big of a deal. So anyways, that's all I've been noticing so far. Fighting Shadow Priests it can be really annoying. But I'm not super unhappy with the Shadow Priest matchup right now, because Paladins have always struggled, well, every class has struggled to take on Shadow Priests in PvP without any Shadow Resist gear, and Shadow Resist gear just doesn't really exist in the game at level 50. At level 60, when you get access to Shadow Resist gear and your tier stats just kind of come with Shadow and Fire Resist just caked onto them in general, fighting Shadow Priests will probably be much, 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 much easier. They can purge the crap out of you just like Shamans can, which does have similar effects to Shamans purging the crap out of you. They don't let you play the game, but unlike a Shaman purge, a Shadow Priest Dispel does truly cost a shit ton of mana. So, for example, Purge at level 60 is like 152 mana, but the Dispel for Priests, I think, is like 254 or 252 mana at level 60. So, and they don't have Shamanistic Rage, thank God. I do believe, let me go look it up really fast here because I'm very curious. Priest, yeah, we'll go Dwarf Priest, why not? The best priests. Talents, yeah. So their Dispersion, yeah, okay. I'm not really sure what its cooldown is. I think it's like a 2-minute cooldown or something like that. But I'm pretty sure you regenerate 1% of your mana, or 6% of your mana every 1 second for 6 seconds, yeah. So they regenerate like 36% of their mana bar from Dispersion. They also have the Void Walker, which isn't a rune. They just gave them a fucking ability. Thanks, Blizzard. Can I just have an ability on my own fucking Paladin that makes it so that my spells aren't, or that buffs on me aren't like 50% chance to resist Dispel? For the love of God, can I play my fucking class? Like, what the fuck? Can't even have a seal against these fucking guys. Again, against Elemental Shamans, it's not the worst thing in the world because an Elemental Shaman can't both damage you very effectively and purge you at the same time, right? They have to stop their purges in order to, like, try to blow you the fuck up. But the enhancement shamans are just, like, deep dicking you with their fucking dual-wielding melee attacks while purging the shit out of you at the same time. They're like, you don't get to fucking play the game. No, you don't get to have a seal. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck your seal. Fuck your sacred shield. Fuck you. Meanwhile, they're just fucking chopping you to pieces. It's like, oh, great. This is balanced. And they have infinite mana, and you're just like, all right, well, now this is really balanced. Because it should be balanced around the fact that they could run out of mana, but they don't. So, because they're purge spamming you, right? That purge spam is supposed to be balanced around the fact that, yeah, it's great, but, and it doesn't let the Paladin play the fucking game, but you're going to doing it eventually. And then that's the win condition for the Paladin. Or not even a win condition, it's just, oh, I get to play my game a minute from now when you run out of fucking mana. Except they never run out of mana now. You can see how I'm pissed off. But with Shadow Priest, it's not really that bad because they get mana back from their Void Walker, but their Void Walker is it's not a Void Walker, like a whatever. Shadow Fiend, there we go. You can stun the thing. It has to hit you in order to regenerate mana. You can stun the thing, and they're super easy to kill, so you can actually kill them very, very quickly. So even if your stun's not on is on cooldown, you can just turn around and just give the Shadow Fiend the business, especially if you have a Wreck Bomb. It's on a 5-minute cooldown, which is nice, but it's just nice that the Shadow Fiend is super easy to kill. What else is there? And then the only other way they get mana back is through dispersion. Mana burn can be a little bit oppressive. Them dispelling all your shit off of you can be a little bit oppressive. Them dispelling freedom or blessing of wisdom can be a little bit oppressive. But the only reason they even remotely stand a chance right now is that the shadow resist isn't in the game. So if you gave me like a shadow resist the same way I've been given fire resist, and I even have like a 30% shadow damage reduction, then the Shadow Priest is basically just going to lose a mana war against a Paladin under current circumstances, which is really, really good. You should be losing mana wars against a Paladin. Especially if you can dispel. Anything that can dispel a Paladin and not let them play the game should by default potentially be able to lose mana wars against Paladins. Because if not, then the Paladin just doesn't get to play, and it's just like, okay, well, this is just stupid. What else is there to talk about? I wanted to say fighting Warlocks will get a little better in the future because you can also get Shadow Resist versus them. But then I remembered they have Curse of Elements, and they can still put 4 fucking dots on you, and they can put Unstable Affliction. And oh, by the way, they're healing themselves, and you can't cleanse that crap off of you. So go fuck yourself. So yeah, just not balanced. Anyways, I will end the video here, and Deus Vult, boys. That's all I've basically been noticing PvPing so far. The build is solid and absolutely good. There are noticeable... It's not the worst thing in the world that classes exist that me as a Paladin struggle with. It's just the problem here in my assessment is that the classes that I can't do anything about are classes that every other class in the game can't do anything about, right? It's like, what class in the game beats Soul Link Warlock? Unstable Affliction Soul Link Warlock right now. It's like, okay, well, maybe an Enhancement Shaman because they can purge off the Soul Link, but I don't think there's anything that really prevents them from just recasting Soul Link. I could be wrong about that. I don't think... Shamans have anti-fear in a totem, but they could just kill the totem. One thing I wanted to make mention in the future is that we might have a better matchup against Warlocks in the future than we do now, because the pets, Warlock pets, as time goes on, become easier and easier to kill. This happens also in Era. So at level 60, a Void Walker basically has all the HP it's ever going to have. A Shadow Fiend has all the HP. It's not a Shadow Fiend, a Fell Hound and a Succubus have all the HP they're ever going to have, right? So Succubus comes to mind. Succubus has maybe like 2,200 HP at level 60. In fresh 60, they're very hard to kill. But when you're a Nax geared Paladin or with Nax geared warriors and Nax geared this and that all over the place, Succubus dies so fucking fast in Battlegrounds, it's not even funny because their HP hasn't been scaling at all, right? The same thing happens to Voidwalkers, and the same thing happens to Fellhounds, right? So, or Fell Hunters, I think. Yeah. So, right now, the situation is that if I try to kill the Warlock, he's a fucking Soul Link Warlock, and he just sits there and laughs at me while he heals. If I try to kill the pet to remove the Soul Link capability, the pet is super fucking tanky because we're not even level 60 yet. And so I just get laughed at, and maybe I can kill the pet, but since I can't cleanse any of this crap off myself, maybe I have to bubble. You know, you just end up dying anyways because out comes the second pet. However, at level 60, when you actually get gear behind it, you're going to watch those Voidwalkers and particularly those Fell Hunters get absolutely decimated in a matter of seconds. And so it might become an easier matchup against a Warlock if we just realize that we need to do that. We basically just need to kill the pet as quickly as possible. So our DPS might scale up so high that keeping a pet, Soul Link Warlock might have a problem keeping a pet alive. Is what I'm trying to say. But the fact that they can still put 5 dots on you and you can't really cleanse them off is absolutely terrifying. Not a big fan of that at all. I've learned, but Shadow Resist might help with that, but then they can just throw Curse of Elements down. I mean, it is what it is, right? If I go here and I type in Curse of E. Yeah, Curse of Elements rank 3, level 60, yeah. Reduce Fire Frost by 75, increasing frost damage taken. I don't think this is even the final version of it. I think it gets buffed somewhere in the demonology tree. I could be wrong about that. But in theory, if I stacked, like, you know, if I stacked up to damn near 300 Shadow Resist, which is an insane amount of Shadow Resist, maybe once we get access to Shadow Reflector, I could make some better plays. But in theory, if I stack up enough Shadow Resist and I make it my business to kill the pet, but that'll, of course, make it harder to kill the pet. I don't know. The fact that you can't cleanse Unstable Affliction off is really, really terrible. But I am registering that some classes, especially DPS-heavy classes, Enhancement Shaman comes to mind, might be able to take on Soul Link Warlocks just because the pet will get weaker and weaker and weaker, and because killing the pet will become more and more viable. Anyways, I'm just trying to think about it. I still think it needs to be moved. I think that a Warlock should have to choose between Improved Drain Life and fucking Unstable Affliction. I think that because otherwise a Soul Link Warlock running around with Unstable Affliction is... There have been multiple expansions in the game with Unstable Affliction in it, where the game tells us, the talent tree tells us, that it is not okay for these talents to be in the same place at the same time, like at all. Like at all. So, like, TBC, Unstable Affliction existed, can't be an SL Warlock with Unstable Affliction. Wrath of the Lich King, Unstable Affliction exists, you cannot be a Soul Link Warlock with Unstable Affliction in Wrath of the Lich King. It can't happen. But then you can be it in Season of Discovery. I guess I'm just bitching now. But, yeah. Anyways, that's what I'm seeing for the future. All in that video here, Deus Volt. I haven't been able to duel some hunters yet. They basically get hacked to pieces. It's not even really a contest. If druids are ooming and trying to kill you while you're pressing W at them, you can imagine how bad the situation is for hunters. They actually get cut to pieces by Reckoning Paladins pretty goddamn hard. Can't really do anything to you. It's really, really interesting. Rogues, we already talked about that. Shamans, we talked about that. Warlocks, we talked about that. Warriors hate Sacred Shield. Sacred Shield basically screws over their rage. If you just go sword and board against a warrior and really start screwing them on the rage, then they have pretty serious problems and they just die. But specifically, the ones that I have trouble with these days is Shadow Priest, but that'll fix itself in time. Rogues that are Thistle Teeing can be a bit of a struggle, but if they're teeing and the next thing I know, basically, if a rogue is teeing, that means you are not in under dueling under dueling conditions, which means the next thing you know, you get to use all kinds of potions and trinkets and all that stuff, right? So you get to use healing potion and whatnot. So rogues aren't that big of a problem. In the future, rogues will get a massive increase in critical strike chance, and so wreck bombing them will just be the way of the future. The Unstable Affliction Warlock. Like, what the fuck, man? I don't even know who the hell thought that was a good idea. Like, you are just fucking insane. Whoever, just punch him in the face. Whoever the fuck figured that out, he, her, him, zer, just go punch it in the face. Pretty please. Doesn't have to be a hard punch. Just be like a little love tap, and tell them it's from Pally time. He says fuck you. Hopefully they'll understand and laugh their ass off. Calling for violence. Yep. Anyways, I'll end the video here, and Day Assault, boys.